thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Friday the 13th. Friday, December 13th. What do you guys got to say about that? Oh, hearing nothing. Huh? You guys got nothing to say.
What a day.
Whole bunch of crickets, huh? Okay. All right. All right. Today is the national... What's that, Jenny? You're cutting out, Jenny. You're going
13 is a lucky number.
13 is a lucky number. Okay. All right. Today is the National Guard's birthday today, you guys. Shout out to the National Guard. It's also National Salesperson's Day. I feel like that should be Black Friday, but whatever. It's also National Violin Day because, we love to play the violin over here, you guys, for all of you. You know what I'm saying? It's National Cocoa Day. I don't know why they should have just made it National Hot Cocoa Day because it's December and it's cold outside. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, and it's also National Day of the Horse. And that's how you know America is the greatest country in the world, because China tries to make the horse the year. What do you guys got to say about that? No,
Yeehaw.
All right. A yeehaw. Oh, that's cute. That's cute. I think that's a donkey. But
That's
whatever.
hee-haw.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
hee-haw. Hee-haw. Okay. All right. Fair enough, you guys. And Dr. T should be joining us shortly, but it's also Pick a Pathologist Day today, you guys.
Dr. T is here.
Yeah, there he is. There's Dr. T. Good morning, Dr. T.
Morning.
Yeah. Did you know
my dad's a pathologist, so that's my favorite pathologist.
I love this. Well, it is your dad's day, so I hope you should let him know that he has two Father's Days now.
I will. Thanks for letting me know.
Of course. We're here to help educate and, you know what I'm saying, and stimulate. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from whatever platform you guys are joining us from. And Mr. Daddy Mac himself, Rico Lamitte, had to be a dope dad today because little baby Zozo has a little Christmas holiday play, little winter cheer going on. So he may join us in the later half of the show when they finish up. But Dr. T, do you want to kick it off, or you want me to kick it off with one of my stories? Because I have two today.
Either way, you can go ahead and then I'll get in between.
All right. Fair enough, Dr. T.
Okay.
What's that?
The High at 9. I'm doing your intro.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. Much love.
All right, kicking us off today, we have Jason Beck, the highest Republican in the room. Sometimes when Jesse's not there. 9 honcho, Jason Beck.
Oh man, here we go, you guys. Here we go, you guys. oh man, oh man. Let me tell you all about what is happening over here, you guys. Jeez Louise. Because South Carolina, you guys, everyone loves South Carolina. There's a pre-filled bill with legalized medical marijuana in, that's right, South Carolina. A bill pre-filled that the state house would, if passed, make medical marijuana legal across South Carolina. Some form of medical cannabis is legal in 38 states, and the bill, also known as the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, they love their C's down there in South Carolina, is no stranger to the state legislature. State Senator Tom Davis said he hopes the state will be the next state to legalize THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, the psychoactive compound in cannabis. Margaret Richardson suffers from trigeminal neuralgia. Did I say that right, Dr. T?
Trigeminal neuralgia.
Yes, that's it. Trigeminal neuralgia. Yes, thank you. Or chronic facial pain. 5 years ago, Richardson spoke in front of state lawmakers in favor of THC legislation. And says in a quote, "When the pain wins, you land on the floor and scream out like an animal," she said. "Medical cannabis is anti-inflammatory, so my condition is neurological. Instead of the grim side effects associated with opioids, I'm able to take something that actually stops the pain." Senator Tom Davis, Republican from the District 46, backed a bill that passed leading to the legalization of CBD, or cannabidiol, a non-psychoactive component in cannabis. And in a quote says, "Marijuana can be a therapeutic benefit in many respects and a lot less intrusive way than opioids or pharmaceuticals," Senator Davis said. In the past 2 years, the bill passed through the Senate but did not make it through the House. Chairman of the House Innovations and Memorial Resolutions Committee, Representative Dennis Moss, a Republican from District 29, voted against the bill back in 2022 and says they were saying we need CBD oil, that it would help with these epileptic emphasis and stuff. Recounted Representative Moss and says, "So we passed CBD oil. It's just a little more, he says. Richardson said she understands the concerns, but argued the benefit of THC would help her and many others who live with chronic pain. And in a quote, "The stereotypical Woodstock hippie is what a lot of us think of," Richardson said. "That's been replaced by tiny children with 100 epileptic seizures per hour, or people like me who are suffering." Senator Davis said for this session, he plans to emphasize key factors to sway House leaders, and in a quote says, "It requires doctors' inpatient authorization, doctor supervision," Davis said. "It requires pharmacists to dispense it, and it is a very conservative bill because that's what South Carolinians want." Senator Davis said he believes doctors and patients would be empowered by the bill's passage, you guys. Well. Is this kind of a tough on cannabis approach? This sounds almost like a Georgia bill or whatnot, since they got to have these pharmaceuticals involved and whatnot. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
You know, the medical paradigm was how we got into this in the first place, and it's always been successful. And what hasn't been successful is actually the adult use recreational paradigm. So whenever I see the medical paradigm, I'm not worried about THC. I think eventually THC will come into the picture here, and let them lead with CBD. Especially if it's helping people right off the bat. Cannabis is cannabis, cannabis oil, right? And it has a little THC in it already. So good news.
Yeah, no, I think it is good news overall. It's some progress. I feel like it's just kind of restrictive by saying that pharmacists are going to be the only ones that can dispense it. It just seems a little out of pocket to me, and that just adds an extra layer of expense to the to the consumer, to the patient, because of the fact that that pharmacists are paid an extraordinarily high salary as compared to like a bud tender. Yeah,
you raise a good point. And also just the idea, doctors don't know how to recommend cannabis. Pharmacists don't know how to deliver cannabis to consumers. There's a huge sort of gap there that needs to be worked on. We can legislate them to do it.
Yeah. No. Exactly right.
I'd be interested to see like what these pharmacists think about this, because usually when I go to the pharmacy, I'm handed a prescription from my doctor, and that's what I get. Now with medical cannabis, oftentimes it's you're handed a card, and I go and look at a wall of products. It's just I'm not dissing on it. I'm just saying I started with, I wonder how the pharmacists will feel about this new.
What they'll probably do is get into their wheelhouse. They'll want to offer you single agent products, just THC, just CBD, maybe the combination of the two, but they'll want some safety protocols. They don't know how to practice herbalism, which is really what this is. This is the practice of herbalism. And so either they're going to have to learn how to practice herbalism, which is a whole new language for them and a whole new way of dispensing, or they're going to have to go to the current cannabis industry or the current herbalists and say, you do it.
Yes.
It's a good thing to point out, it's not solved yet.
Yep. Very, very, very true. Jenny Beth, you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, listen, progress is progress, no matter whatever. And for South Carolina being as deep in the Bible Belt as it is, I'm surprised that they're pushing through anything. So good on them. But I would assume that, to Cole's point, this is probably going to be very restrictive. There's going to be very little option. It's probably going to be a tincture, and you were prescribed cannabis. Here is your tincture. Hope it works. So, I think we need to look at this a little more realistically and see if South Carolina can find some better alternatives for what they're proposing now. But it seems like they're kind of getting in line with what Schedule 3 might look like.
Ooh, that's a really good point right there, Jenny Beth. That might be a catalyst going on. It might be all about the weed for the people right there, you guys. Jesse, what do you think about this?
I think Dr. Talleyrand has all the greatest points, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, fair enough.
On this one.
All right, fair enough. And I did see. I was looking for it right now. I'm sorry, I can't find it, so I can't actually quote it directly. But I did see that Congresswoman Nancy Mace from South Carolina came out in favor of this bill as well, and so is doing her part to try to advance this bill through its state legislature as well. So shout out to Nancy Mace and all the work that she does for cannabis up there on Capitol Hill. We super appreciate all of her work. Well, you guys, we are going to keep this thing rolling. We are going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right, Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
It's giving us the monitor.
And we are back, and we are going to roll right on in to Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He's the founder of the CESC and of Medican, where you should be getting your doctor's recommendations. He's been writing doctor's recommendations so long, he probably even wrote your parents' recommendation. And man, I guess he's really excited about this whole possibility of Schedule 3, because then he's going to be writing prescriptions for cannabis. That's right, it is none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. I don't know. Let's see. Happy Friday, everyone. So my headline today is from Science Daily. Perceptions of parent cannabis use shape teen attitudes, by Will Ferguson. Teens who think their parents use cannabis are more likely to hold favorable attitudes toward cannabis and consider trying it themselves. according to new Washington State University study. The research published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies also revealed that child monitoring and the closeness of the parent-child relationship play crucial roles in adolescents' view about cannabis, often with distinct effects based on the parent's gender. The findings of this study could ultimately help parents who use cannabis come up with effective strategies for communicating about the health risks of the plant with their children, especially in states like Washington, where cannabis is legal and mixed social messages complicate discussions of substance use. Parents need to recognize that their use matters, said Stacy Hust, lead author of the study and a professor of communications at WSU. If teens perceive their parents use cannabis, whether they actually do or not, it can send a message that the behavior is acceptable for them, especially without explicit conversations that set boundaries for your teens. The WSU team surveyed 276 adolescents aged 13 to 17. 32% of teens believed that their fathers used cannabis, while 25% thought their mothers did. The perceptions were strongly associated with decreased negative attitudes toward cannabis and increased intentions to use it. Teens close to mothers who were non-users reported lower intentions to use cannabis. Conversely, teens close to cannabis-using mothers exhibited more positive attitudes and stronger intentions to use it. For fathers, closeness was associated with more positive attitudes toward cannabis use, regardless of whether the father actually used it or not. The researchers also found that parental monitoring can be a protective factor against underage cannabis use, especially for boys whose parents know their whereabouts and who their friends are, had more negative attitudes about cannabis than girls under a similar level of supervision. The overall message for parents is that open and honest discussions about cannabis combined with consistent monitoring can help mitigate teens' likelihood to view cannabis positively or intentions to use it. The authors recommend that parents frame cannabis as an adult decision akin to alcohol or tobacco. So that's where I disagree with the article. The study authors are struggling with change, which has nothing to do with their teenagers. Social messages are mixed because adults are slow to adjust to the truth. Cannabis is not poisonous like alcohol or tobacco. Adults act irrationally around the use of cannabis because they have been taught to do so. The stigma against cannabis will dissipate over time. In the future, our teens will not have reefer madness ghosts in their head. In the meantime, if your teen decides to use cannabis, show them how to roll a good joint, or better yet, use a vaporizer. Explain to them that there's a time and a place to use cannabis. Make sure that they do their chores, their homework, socialize with friends, and get good grades. Finally, explain to them that based on the evidence, alcohol and cigarettes should be avoided. But the evidence about cannabis use is still uncertain. Will you teach your teenager how to roll a joint? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News. Trying to be provocative here.
Yeah,
I feel like you
this.
picked this story just for me, Dr. T.
Hey, I just showed my 14-year-old how to roll a joint. He does not smoke cannabis, but he sees me doing it. And so I felt like rather than doing it in the closet, I'm going to just be all out in the open.
I love this. I love this.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I have a similar story, and I think that the story is really perfect because that's exactly what it is. If you remove the stigma and you use education, what I've found is that they're less interested in it. I knew that my kids were, their friends and stuff were going to be interested in it. And so I jumped ahead of the ball. I did the same as you, Dr. T. All my kids know how to roll a joint. I actually used the quote Anthony Bourdain said, which is every good host should know how to roll a joint, just like making eggs. So I just think it's a part of hosting. You should be able to make a cocktail. You should be able to roll a joint. You should be able to make good eggs, right? It's just part of life. So I've definitely done that. My oldest son does consume cannabis. He's now 19. He consumes pretty moderately. He literally waited. He wanted to smoke early. And I said, wait as long as you can, because, you know, the closer you get to 21, the less you're impacting your neurological development. And we don't know what that is, so you might as well let it be completely natural. And he did. He waited, and he smoked his first time with me, which was really cool.
Awesome.
But hold, are you sure that it was his first time that he smoked with you, or was it just the first time that he smoked with you, Jesse?
No, it was the first time he smoked. We talked about it since he was 12.
Got it. That's a cool experience, I would say, man. You know what I mean? That's a cool
It's
memory.
really cool.
You know, it's like reliving your first time that you consumed cannabis all over again, but you know, through your mini version.
Well, the cool part was that because I'm an expert and I've been in the cannabis industry for so long, you know, I had a really nice Puffco, and I gave him his first hit of actual weed was a really killer rosin dab, and I did it at super low temperature, so it was mostly
you did it like
flavoring.
a heady boy style.
Yeah, I didn't slam him with THC really hard. I think I did like a 420, you know, temperature. And he took a really small puff, and we waited for 20 minutes, and he talked about what the experience was like as it happened. And we had a really educational experience. And we walked around. We were in LA at the time. And we walked around the city. We went and got on the train, and we went to Santa Monica and went to the beach, and we had a wonderful day. It was a really bonding, cool experience.
That's dope.
I recommend that's the approach that people take. You destigmatize, teach your kids everything you can about it. Then they're just going to be they're going to become experts and teach their friends. That's how I look at it.
That's a good point. D-Dank actually says in the chat on X, he says, I started my epileptic son on one hitters at the age of 12.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I would imagine an epileptic son has got to carry a vape pen with them all the time.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jenny Beth, what you have any thoughts on this? I mean, you have Parker's, fairly young, and I know doesn't consume cannabis yet, but may possibly at one day. What are your thoughts on this?
Parker has never seen me smoke. First of all, Parker will be 12 Christmas Day, so that's fine. That's just my personal choice. He has been on my back sleeping in a papoose while I watered and defold, so he's definitely been around it. But you know, I think that. I grew up in the South, so my thing is like, yes, destigmatize it. I'm not going to teach them it's a bad thing, things like that. But I also am very aware of the times where people have had their children taken away for cannabis. So I always want to safety first on that one. And my experience was completely different. My dad found my weed, made me roll him a joint, and then told me my weed was too strong. So there's that.
Fair enough. I mean, I love the thumbnail, the reference on the thumbnail, the old school Dare commercial. The where did you learn this from? I learned it from watching you, Dad. That was just such a good commercial back then in the 80s, man. They don't make commercials like that anymore nowadays, Dr. T.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna keep this train rolling. I am hearing a little bit of that buzz that you guys were hearing, Jesse and Cole on Jenny's side. So when she talked, but I don't hear it right now. But nonetheless, we're gonna keep this train rolling, you guys, rolling. We are gonna roll right on into Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps individuals rehabilitate their lives coming out of incarcerated situations. That's right. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
I can, but it's okay. Just don't even worry about it. Just roll.
Okay. Well, sorry, we're buzzing this morning. But my story this morning is about a massive drug bust in Southern California where authorities uncovered over $100 million worth of marijuana. San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies executed a search warrant on December 9th at a residence on the 5,000 block of Honey Hill Road in Oak Hills. The search targeted illegal marijuana cultivation on a 5-acre property. Inside a newly constructed 120 by 40-foot metal building, investigators found over 3,000 trash bags filled with processed marijuana. Authorities described the haul as mid to high grade, with bags weighing between 30 and 50 pounds each. Stacks of marijuana reached over 12 feet high and filled the entire building. Over a 2-day period, law enforcement agencies, including San Bernardino County Marijuana Enforcement Team, Code Enforcement in California Fish and Wildlife removed 51 truckloads of marijuana, totaling over 90,000 pounds. The estimated market value of the seized marijuana, more than $100 million. Authorities have not disclosed any information about suspects or ownership of the property, and no arrests have been made as the investigation continues. Detective Chris Bassett of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department highlighted the ongoing issue, saying, "We've had a huge influx of outdoor cultivation within the county. At one time, we had upwards of 1,400 illegal cultivations." So I think this is interesting. I saw the picture. It's a bunch of black contractor bags. I don't know who stores high-grade marijuana like that unless inside those trash bags were turkey bags, which it could have been. To me, it looks like the price of trim's going up, but I'm going to throw it back to you guys because this is interesting.
I mean, Jenny Beth, I'm with you on this. I saw all that dust on these trash bags, and I was just like, that is just a whole bunch of boof, man. It might be some like old 2 years ago outdoors weed that people are just sitting around waiting to make distillate to ship to New York or something like that.
My favorite thing about the story that Jenny just read is that they said mid to high grade, which makes me think that they saw some of the weed and they were like, that's mid.
You know, I was actually watching old Cops episodes last night, and they were doing busts of marijuana, the fields and whatnot, when they do the old drop down now the helicopter out in the wilderness, and they're like, oh look, they planted all this foliage around here, and it's like, you're out in the outdoors, bro. That's just nature. Like these people did not plant all this foliage. Like, you're gaslighting these people, and they're pulling out buds like, yeah, this is really high grade marijuana. And it's just like some like boof outdoor weed. And I was just like, these guys, I wish they could actually quantify something actually accurately. I think we've only found one story and one law enforcement officer out in I think it was New York that actually had like a decent quantification for how he justified the reasoning for the quantity of the bust as far as putting a number value on there. And other than that, every single story that I've ever read in regards with cannabis busts are just way over exaggerated on the valuations of what the cannabis is actually worth.
Got to make it sound scary.
Oh man. Well, the number one name in law enforcement, actually there's probably two. There's the bigger the bust, the bigger the boost. And then there's always the famous one, tell on 3 and go free.
Well.
Mm-hmm. Well.
Don't ever do that.
You're not supposed to do that. That's right. Yes, right. That's what they say.
Don't listen to Jason.
I'm not saying it as advice. I'm just saying that's one of the law enforcement codes right there.
You should also know that people will clip things and push them however you want them. So I wouldn't say that.
I mean, they can clip me all they want. I don't really give a shit about whatever. I'll kiss my ass.
And if I was an asshole, I would clip that, tell on 3 and go free. I don't really give a shit. They'd kiss my ass.
I don't care. Let them do it.
Someone should do it. In the audience.
Let them do it. Let them do it. Clip it. Go for it, bro. Clip it.
Make the funny video.
Make my day. Make my day, you guys. Please.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying? Help promote the show. Help us grow. All of that good stuff. We appreciate it. You have any thoughts on this? You have any thoughts on this, Dr. T? What don't you think that this weed, like, they should just like they should donate it or something to something? Like, couldn't you guys make like some THCV medicine or something out of this?
I doubt it's THCV, but yeah, there are probably a fair amount of cannabinoids that can be extracted and used to help people with it. Yeah, I don't, this is just more of the game, I guess, that they're playing in California, trying to stop non-licensed operators from taking the market away from licensed operators.
Because of tax money and because the licensed operators are like, my store is failing because there's somebody selling it in the smoke shop up the street. Like, no, your store is failing because you suck at running a store. People who shop at stores are not going to go find a trap. People who shop in the trap aren't looking for your store.
Yep. That's very true. That is true. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, that was me. I was going to say, I'm not one to side with cannabis operators often, but I do think, and I think you would all agree with this, like the regulations are partially to blame. You have states like Michigan and Oklahoma, just to use a few examples, where they've basically made it to where you're silly for not operating in the legal market. Like, you don't have a lot of hemp operators in Michigan and Oklahoma. You've got a lot of dispensaries, and you've got a lot of people going to those dispensaries, because on both sides of the token, you'd just be silly not to participate in the legal market. And I think the lesson that California and even Illinois is learning is, yes, the operators, I agree with the main thing Jenny said. The operators are definitely, let's say, weak or scared of competition. But there's, I just wanted to make sure to critique the regulations while we were talking about them as well.
Fair enough. I mean, you do a pretty good job of critiquing regulations on your channel, Cole. Everyone should check it out if they haven't already. The Cole Memo, you guys. Cole from the Cole Memo. And Hawaii Sustainable says in the chat, says on YouTube, says, danger is the only reason people grew indoors, and the price of outdoor was $6,400 all day, every day, and now it's as dangerous. It's only $200 to $300 a pound.
Yes, and the reason for that is that because cannabis was expensive because of prohibition. The laws prohibiting cannabis cultivation, use, sales is what has driven up the price of cannabis, because at the end of the day, this is a commodity. It's not a luxury item. You are paying for the fact that my ass might sit in prison for the rest of my life for growing this. That's what you're paying.
And this is, you know what, this might be a good point too. You know what, in the X chat, the real Ganja Queen, she says the Santa Barbara AG commissioner is still raiding hemp farmers. This very well could just be all hemp. Like, it could be just a straight boof hemp in there, you guys, that, you know what I'm saying, they're getting ready to turn into, maybe paper or fiber or something, maybe piss up a rope or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they have to probably test it before they can.
I mean, it's all THCA at the end of the day, Jenny Beth.
I guess, Jason, but I mean, I would hope that they're not that stupid. They said there was a 5-acre cultivation that they had been tracking as well. So I would hope that they've done their due diligence. And San Bernardino is probably not the county to fuck around in. Their sheriff has made very clear that he doesn't want that happening. So it's definitely a risk.
When we used to go out there, we always called it San Bernardino.
I try not to go out there.
I'm with you. I don't blame you on that. I stand with you on that one. I try not to go there as often as possible. You know what I mean? The problem is,
sorry, Kush.
Yeah.
Much love.
Problem is that when you're driving to Vegas, you have to go through there.
Yeah, you gotta go through. You don't have to stop. I'm not stopping in Victimville. I'm not going to Paris with an E.
Oh man, and on that, we're gonna roll into a commercial, and we are gonna be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Oh, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And we do want to thank all of you that have subscribed, because we just recently, this week on Monday morning, passed the 5,000 subscriber threshold. We are halfway to meeting our goal of 10,000 subscribers. So if just all of you share the show with at least one person, we will get there so much faster. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show you can read directly on our website at www.highatnightnews.com. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right, we are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're going to be clean and safe, and they're not going to give you any of the runaround Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. And we are back, you guys. And coming up next, we are going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He started off creating the show with us in our very, very infancy days back when we used to broadcast live and direct from Green Street in downtown LA. He actually probably painted our original green room too, because he was one of the main ones that was doing all the work back then. That's right. He's the creator of Jesse Barney Design Co. and specializes in graphic design and critiquing other people's work as well. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My story is pretty fun this morning. I really like it. It is also very long, so I'm going to just cut a big chunk of the middle out and explain it to you. It's out of the New York Times, and it says, "The CEOs are tripping. Can psychedelics help the C-suite?" A growing cottage industry is dedicated to the theory that mind-altering drugs can improve business leadership. Burrowed in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies is a wooden house, a retreat center made of pine and spruce and filled with mushroom carvings, tapestries of periwinkle and indigo paisley, books about the indoctrinated brain, and other paraphernalia nodding to the promised transformation. Enter as a chief executive, emerge as an enlightened one. When a group of executives wearing hoodies and leggings arrive on a Tuesday evening in October, they vibrated with the nervous energy of a summer camp drop-off. They were gathered for a retreat called the Psychedelic CEO, which they had agreed to let me observe. Their guide, Murray Rogers, used to be a hard-charging oil and gas executive. About a decade ago, he underwent a process of self-discovery. It began after a miserable pairing, a divorce, and a failed company initial public offering that left him alone on his 60th birthday, watching Hugh Grant's romantic comedy, The Rewrite, and wondering if it was a time for a rewrite of his own. He became a yoga instructor and then went to Costa Rica to try ayahuasca, a hallucinogenic brew. This started as a sequence of mushroom trips and psychedelic ceremonies that left Mr. Rogers, now 69, spiritually, psychologically, and professionally transfigured. It was as if he had thrown his ego into a dryer and watched it shrink, and he became intent on helping others with that same kind of cosmic laundering. He wrote a book, The Psychedelic CEO, and after hearing from readers, he also began hosting retreats. On that day in October, he welcomed 5 business leaders, Adam, Jill, Chris, and AJ, most of whom requested to use only their first names so as to not alarm their investors, employees, or children with their unconventional approach to professional development. All run small businesses in the Calgary area and had met through an entrepreneur's network. After their arrival, they scarfed down bowls of thick lentil soup and then settled on couches in a downstairs den, awaiting for Mr. Rogers to introduce the agenda. The first order of business was a microdose, 0.25 milligrams of psilocybin, the main psychedelic substance found in the hallucinogenic mushrooms, which was child's play compared to the dosages they would take the next day. After handing out the psilocybin pills, Mr. Rogers brought out a map of consciousness which displayed a range of mental states the entrepreneurs might be experiencing as varied as shame, guilt, and enlightenment. He used a marker to jot down each entrepreneur's current state of being, giving the room the temporary feeling of a corporate offsite run by Mrs. Frizzle. "Who feels nervous about tomorrow?" Mr. Rogers asked. 3 hands shot into the air. "Guess what's on the other side of fear," he said. "Love, always." So then he goes on, the writer goes on to explain the next day they get up and they have tea in the morning and watch the sunrise, and they all take a hero dose of mushrooms, like 5 to 7 grams, and they hang out all day, and they describe their various experiences. One has kind of a scary experience. One has they just have a varied assortment of experiences. And then towards the end, they bring it back from the story of these people tripping and what their experiences are like to some science. So then it gets into the unsettled science of ego depletion. There's little concrete knowledge yet of how or whether psychedelics affect leadership and decision-making. Since 2022, 2 associate business professors at the University of Maryland, Bennett Zellner and Rochelle Sampson, have been observing 3 cohorts of business leaders who gathered for retreats in the Netherlands where psilocybin truffles are legal. Some business leaders received executive coaching along with 2 psilocybin trips. Mr. Zellner and Mrs. Sampson are now collecting data on how the experience has affected the executives' professional lives. Luther Kitahara, a coach for participants in the Netherlands retreats, said he watched someone who used to lead a bank and now sits on company boards overcome fears about public speaking. This didn't surprise him. The ego is brought down, he explained. The ego is usually what's thinking, oh, what if people think badly of me? Robert Carhart Harris, a neuroscientist studying the effects of psychedelics, said that it was possible the drugs could help leaders in the workplace. Mr. Carhart Harris, a professor at the University of California, San Francisco, examines people's brains on drugs. His brain scans show that psychedelics increase entropy. Where the brain usually tries to helpfully compress information, these drugs have the opposite effect, which he argues could shake loose new thinking on the knotty challenges of leadership. The former chief operating officer of Masterclass, Mark Williamson, has done some 20 guided psychedelic trips since 2020, which he says have yielded professional epiphanies. He started prioritizing mentorship and also changed his position at Masterclass. I realized my role was getting too big and the company would be better served if I handed off some responsibilities, Mr. Williams said. There are now dozens of studies being done on the effect of psychedelics on mental well-being, but some scientists worry about research being done by scholars who seem to be wedded to finding positive results. Reporting in the New York Times this year raised questions about the psychedelic research program at Johns Hopkins University. The director of the program, Roland Griffiths, was accused of overstepping from research into evangelism, including steering subjects to report that the drugs had spiritual effects. Some psychedelic veterans in the business world worry less about the efficacy of the drugs and more about the pressure that business leaders might unwittingly put on colleagues. Chip Conley, a former Airbnb executive and founding member of Burning Man, stressed that there were many ways for leaders to become more emotionally open without using drugs, and noticed some executives talk about their use of psychedelics as a signaling mechanism. There's no doubt there's a cultural cachet in some communities that suggests that if you're into psychedelics, you're cool and open-minded, he said. Anybody who is doing an activity, especially one that is meant to be countercultural for the purpose of building status, is going to have a bad trip, Mr. Conley continued. You'll realize you're a poser. Dad did a lot of drugs. Mr. Rogers played Here Come the Sun to let the entrepreneurs that their trips were coming most likely to an end. They slowly emerged from their mattresses and left the den, curling up on deck chairs and outside to discuss what they had seen. They all agreed on one particularly affecting moment of the day, which was tripping while listening to Coldplay's Fix You. Mr. Rogers brought out blank canvases and pastels so they could draw what they had seen. The group drew blue and green blobs, yellow streaks, and infinity symbols. My kids will find this in the attic one day and they won't understand, one entrepreneur, Adam, joked. Dad did a lot of drugs that day, another also named Adam replied. The group had committed to this psychedelic retreat at the urging of one of the Adams, the head of the small environmental consulting firm, who proposed it after listening to a Joe Rogan podcast about the drugs. Adam described how during his trip he found himself on a spaceship where some of his fellow travelers were farmers, not astronauts. He thought to himself, farmers don't belong in outer space. Afterward, Adam realized or tried to relate this vision to his business, and he realized that high-flying, fast-moving startup environments don't suit every kind of worker. He considered which of his employees should be discouraged from staying on his team for the long term. Different strokes for different folks, Adam said. I need to make sure I'm understanding people have different needs, wants, and levels of risk intolerance. In the moment, the drug-induced experiences didn't translate into tidy takeaways. But in the month following the retreat, each of the group members found nuggets of meaning. Jill, who is a partner in an advertising firm, said that the trip, which included a visual tour of her childhood home, prompted her to consider why she was averse to taking risks. This was helpful as she tried to make up her mind between two roles at her company, one sales-focused and the other operational. She ended up inventing her own job description, combining elements of each. There was this low-level anxious hum going away, she said. It's like I'm more chilled out. AJ, who runs a marketing firm, found the trip frightening. For a moment, he thought he had died, but in the weeks afterward, he felt that it had helped him better understand his own emotional states. He summed it up as, feel more, care less. And Mr. Thompson, who runs a small e-commerce business, said that the trip had left him with a new sense of ease about items he couldn't accomplish on his daily to-do lists. When you own a business, you start the day with a 15-line checklist. He said, what happened to me is the subtle reminder that it's not all a big deal. In the final hours of the retreat, the entrepreneurs sat around a campfire. They remarked how relaxing it had been to be off their phones for the day. Mr. Rogers told them that he once led a psychedelic retreat for a chief executive who refused to let go of her phone. She was texting while tripping. Finally, Mr. Rogers persuaded her to hand over the device. She started crying and asked him, "Am I dying?" "That's the wrong question," Mr. Rogers recalled telling her, instructed her to instead ask, "Am I living?" That's the end of the article. I just love that it's Mr. Rogers who's leading them through this.
Oh, man.
So I can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts on it.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Jesse. I mean, first of all, I don't understand why all of these CEOs have this infatuation with wanting everyone to love them so much. All right. What they need to focus on is being good parents and focusing on their family, loving them at home. And then everybody at work can either like them or not like them, whatever they want to do, but ultimately make sure that they're just being productive workers. Like, because you're never going to please everybody. So that's just not a reality. And I think a lot of these people, when they go on these trips and like, oh, I want to just make the like they're kind of like barking up the wrong tree with this.
That's interesting.
Well, ego drives the CEO, right? You know, there's a desire to succeed and you know, put yourself as the leader, and so I can see why, you know, they're under stress. And what the psychedelic experience is doing is it's taking away the ego from driving perception, and introducing an alternate perception, which is great. But I would think naturally most CEOs would be ego-driven.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Interesting. I don't know about all that, but I understand. I understand where you're coming from with that, though, Dr. T. I do understand that.
I think there was a part in there where one of the guys spoke about, you know, coming out and realizing he could step out of some roles, and I think that's the problem is that a lot of times when you're in that ego position, you're trying to get stuff done, and you're
micromanaging too much.
Yeah, you're taking over things, and you're just in every single thing because your ego says, I got to make this happen. And a lot of times a really great psychedelic experience can go, dude, if you step out of that, it will still work.
So Jesse, what you're saying is the best cure for micromanaging is possibly microdosing.
Macrodosing.
Speaking of little trippy experiences, what do you have to say about this, Jenny Beth?
What, Jason? I mean, I think it's a great reset. I think it's important. I think it's good to just be able to sit with yourself and kind of, you know, open up those parts that you've intentionally closed off. And I encourage everybody to do it once. Speaking of, Jason,
I think this story is the timing on this is interesting. There's been a lot of anger about CEOs and maybe their lack of empathy, and I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
What do you mean? You got people out there killing CEOs in the streets right now? Cole.
That's what he was hinting at.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Nice. You walked right into it.
I know.
That's good.
I knew exactly where he was going, bro. And I'm just going to drive a car right through the Subaru dealership. It's just like that guy did on the internet the other day.
He warned him. He told him. Didn't he call the cops?
He did.
Listen, I think it's more of that's a class war, I think, and that's what's happening. I think people are realizing it's not right and left in this country. It's rich and poor, right?
It's a classist, yeah.
People are seeing what's going on with the classism, and they're seeing what's going on with, big pharma and the insurance companies and people who are intentionally bankrupting the people of the United States. Because, we know, if you're diagnosed with cancer, guess what? You're probably going to have to file bankruptcy. Why? Because it's fucking expensive. So you can die, or you can go through whatever and fight your insurance company and do whatever you need to do to try and stay alive. But then when you're alive, what do you have left?
Yeah. You know, I will say too, there was one part of the story that you were talking about. Someone wouldn't get off their phone when they're tripping.
That's the very end, yeah.
Let me tell you something, bro. That bothers me. If I'm sitting with a group of people and we're tripping balls or whatnot, that bothers me, especially if I don't know the person that well. If they're new to the crew and I don't know much about them being on their phone weirds me the hell out. And I'm just I instantly go into this paranoia type of state of who in the hell are they texting them? What in the hell are they telling them? And are they all of this? And it is not, I do not enjoy that.
Jason Beck is tripping balls right now.
Stay off your phones, guys.
One thing I think we should put out into the ether, there has, to your point, Jason, there's been a lot of anger towards CEOs. Maybe instead of encouraging, like some have been doing, violent acts, we encourage people to dose their CEOs. Just to give them a little love.
Although 5 grams is a lot.
Yeah, 5 grams is a lot. I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Dr. T. I mean, my thing is this. Man,
5 grams is where you make sure, for sure, you are going to enter another dimension. There is no question. You will definitely go there.
That's why one of them had a bad trip, probably, right?
I thought it would be funner to dose law enforcement than it would be to dose.
Well, she did say in the article that it, even though she had a bad trip, it resulted in her thinking later and figuring it all out. And that is often with psychedelic experiences. I've even had that on cannabis, where it's the time of being high, quote unquote, isn't pleasurable, but then the after effect is great. And definitely the case for psychedelics. I've definitely had trips myself that have been beyond uncomfortable, and even the days after are not really comfortable, thinking through things that I experienced and then having to work it out. And then in the months to come, there's this really long blooming, beautiful, resonant and solid thing that's I don't need it again. It continues to affect me. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, since you brought up Joe Rogan, one of my favorite quotes from him out of a comedy bit is he looks kind of wide-eyed at the camera and he says, "You learn some shit. You learn some shit from the scary trips. So you learn." Yeah.
You know what I have noticed too is that when I trip with people, is a lot of times I can see their true selves in some type of form.
Yeah, like their aura, kind of.
Yeah.
Soul,
Like what is really inside of them, and I don't know if that's unique to me or whatnot, or only unique to some people. If some people have never experienced that or whatnot, but I have definitely experienced that, being able to see what what people are really like inside from these types.
Very
of
common experience. Very common experience. What I'm surprised is that none of you have brought out the fact that this is kind of a commercialization of what seems to be a very spiritual and mental health, medical on that side thing. And it's like this black market, this cottage industry, quote unquote, that's arisen out of it. And there's a lot of money to be made. And Mr. Rogers seems pretty cool, but who else is running these retreats and what kind of stuff is happening, and they're making money on it. So then the motive becomes really weird, right? You're using a spiritual substance to make money, and that complicates things.
Just like when you're looking at the guy in Oakland and San Francisco who all of a sudden didn't get the cannabis license, now it's a church, and now all of a sudden he has this church of psychedelics. You're looking at All the white girls who did yoga 3 times have crystals, and now they're hosting ayahuasca retreats, which is dangerous.
That type of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
You can't just go do that. That's not something you're like, I partied Friday night, Saturday, I'm going to do ayahuasca. You might not.
You know what's funny?
We need to be more intentional.
Yeah, you know what's funny is there was another story that didn't make the cut in today's news. That what was the headline? Oh man, it was pretty funny. It says pro mushroom church leader sues Detroit's top lawyer, citing religious freedom and defamation. I just thought that was pretty funny, and it was kind of timely with the story that we covered yesterday that you're alluding to, Jenny Beth. So,
well, get ready to be defamed again, dude, because I think you're full of shit.
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
This plan would make marijuana legal, but would not remove all of the consequences. Explain that for us.
Why are they busting in my door after midnight over something that Illinois says is legal?
Right. We've run into so much cannabis. We've run out of places to put it.
Things are legalized, but it's not legalized completely.
My mini doc on legalization policy in Illinois is available for free streaming now at colememo.com/minidoc.
And we are back. And before we get into our 5th story of the day, I think Jenny Beth had something she wanted to say. America's sweetheart. What do you have to say, Jenny Beth?
Because I'm super stoked because this Sunday is Frosty's 4-ball, which is for those of you that don't know, I am an avid golfer, slightly teetering on the obsession side. So if you're in Orange County, if you're around Orange County, it's a party for sure. I may or may not be dressed like a scantily clad Mrs. Claus with my 3 elves in my foursome. So it's a really cool party. It's for, some great people. It's thrown by my good friend Ruben from OC Golf Blog. So definitely a lot of cannabis, a lot of golf, and a lot of just fun. And I hope you guys come out. It should be fun. It's shotgun start is at like 9 a.m. at Strawberry Farms right there in Irvine. So I just wanted to shout that out. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for including me. And all my golfers, hit me up.
Yeah, shout out to Orange County. Orange County life. All right, we're going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right into our guest correspondent today, Mr. Cole Preston of the Cole Memo here on YouTube. And I'm not sure if you have any other channels, but he also has a pretty popular website, the Cole Memo, where he breaks out groundbreaking discovery, news-breaking stories in regards to the Illinois market, always making noise in Illinois. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Cole Preston.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks for bringing me on at Hotline, Jason and crew. And yeah, you can check out my work at colememo.com. In case you didn't know, the show is not called the Cole Memo because my name is Cole. It's actually named after Jason's favorite legal document, of which he applauds quite often, the Cole Memo, which was
because it's just a piece
Obama
of paper.
Administration.
Just a piece of
Jason
paper.
loves the Cole Memo. Right, Jason?
It's just a piece of paper, Cole. It actually does nothing, and all these activists want to claim that it's God's best gift to cannabis, but it actually does absolutely crap. Nothing.
This is how you know I'm a fan of High at 9. I know how to trigger Jason. So
nice, dude.
So, hey, what's the perfect time for a dentist appointment, everybody? Do you know this joke? 2:30?
2:30.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute, bro.
And that is the time. That is the time, 2:30 Central. The Illinois Governor Pritzker is expected to go live from the press room, where he's expected to give a ringing endorsement of House Bill 4293, which would effectively ban hemp from being sold by local retailers. The measure would not ban online sales of hemp. Good news, parody gummy, as confirmed by the lead sponsor of the legislation, Kimberly Lightford. Today's story is from Cranes, Chicago. I'm going to be reading their story and maybe having a little bit of commentary along the way. Governor J.B. Pritzker plans to make the case Friday, today, for the Illinois House of Representatives to pass a law to crack down on intoxicating hemp during the lame duck session next month. Governor Pritzker's sounding like a lame duck with this move. Pritzker has said he favors regulating hemp-based products, also called synthetic marijuana, that are intoxicating. I don't think it's fair to say hemp-based products are called synthetic marijuana. Maybe some of them are, but I'll just keep reading. Hemp a cousin of the cannabis plant with very low levels of THC, the chemical associated with marijuana's high, was legalized under the 2018 United States Farm Bill before Illinois legalized recreational marijuana. That was under the presidency of Jason's favorite president, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
People soon began processing the hemp to concentrate the levels of THC, resulting in products generically known as Delta 8. I'll keep my commentary for the rest of this article at the end. Unlike marijuana, they're not regulated or tested. Products such as gummies have shown up on the shelves of corner stores, smoke shops, and gas stations, many of them with far higher concentrations of THC than are allowed in legal cannabis. Children who have consumed these products have ended up going to the hospital. The most recent incident last week in Rogers Park, where 3 elementary school students were taken to a hospital after ingesting gummies containing an unknown substance, CBS Channel 2 reported. So, the Illinois Senate passed a bill earlier this year. It flew through the Senate pretty well unopposed, that would allow only licensed dispensaries to sell hemp products, except for beverages, which could be sold by those licensed to sell or produce alcohol until January 20th, 2025. It also would require registration and testing for non-intoxicating CBD products, but the bill did not receive a vote in the House. The House could still take up the bill during the lame duck session, which is tentatively scheduled for January 2nd through the 7th, which is before a new General Assembly is sworn in. Now, that's why that January 25th date is important. The brewers fought for that carve-out quite a while ago, and if this bill were to be signed in as is, those brewers would have less than a month to sell these beverages legally. I don't know if they'll agree to that. House Speaker Chris Welch said, in the House, we slowed it down. He said this at Crane's Power Breakfast. He said, I do think it's important we go slow and get it right, that we listen to all folks involved. He said, I'm very interested to hear what the governor has to say on Friday. This will be the first time we've heard him take a public position on the issue. I want to continue the conversations with the caucus and any other stakeholders. At the end of the day, we want to get it right. The governor's office declined to comment for Crane's Chicago. I also called them yesterday. They declined to comment for me. The problems with Delta 8 and other synthetic cannabis products goes beyond public safety, this Crane's article says. The state spent years setting up a recreational and medical cannabis industry with a limited pool of growers and dispensaries. Those applicants spent millions getting into the business, and the state taxes those products at more than 30%, which produces nearly $500 million in annual revenue. Here's why they want to ban it. Intoxicating hemp products threaten to undermine the regulated cannabis industry that has been seen as one of Pritzker's major legislative accomplishments. Pritzker's move to encourage state legislators to act also comes after Chicago Alderman Will Hall proposed that the city tax hemp products because the city of Chicago is searching for new revenue to avoid increasing property taxes. So, as you may know from High at 9, 18 states have banned intoxicating products such as Delta 8. Several Chicago suburbs have also implemented their own bans. Morgan Paxia, a cannabis investor at Poseidon Investment Management, says the competition from the so-called gray market of intoxicating hemp products is the biggest threat to the legal cannabis industry because it's fueling more of a decline in marijuana prices than oversupply coming from their legal competitors. The hemp industry has opposed the regulation passed by the Senate, saying it will likely put many of them out of business, along with smoke shops and corner stores. There are also bakeries and cafes that sell these products infused with THC derived from hemp. Representative LaShawn Ford, who has proposed his own measure to regulate hemp, said we ought to regulate it to the point of safety where it's tested, labeled, and taxed. He said we have to eliminate high potency levels. Banning it does not eliminate them. In other words, prohibition doesn't work. He also said we could do the same with Delta that we did with cannabis. And to close out the story, Ford and others say the bill didn't get called for a vote during the regular session last spring because the votes just weren't there. And I'm hearing they're still not, to just be completely candid. That could change, though, Crane says, if Pritzker makes a push for the bill. If the governor gets involved, he may be able to convince the number of people needed to pass it, Ford says. Before I pass it back to the panel, I just want to mention, a few things. When the Cannabis Business Association of Illinois announced this bill, which was on April 11th, they had their lead legislator citing off similar figures. She said there's a recent study by the Journal of American Medical Association that found that more than 11% of high school seniors report using Delta 8. Parents across the state continue to receive the call no one wants to receive. The call that their child has consumed Delta 8 THC and is being transported to the hospital. I can send you the link for the study that Senator Lightford was referencing. In that same study, they found that 29% of 12th graders reported using cannabis that year. Notably, that number is higher than the number of 12th graders that reported use of Delta 8. I want to pass it back to the panel. What do you guys think about Illinois' move? Hey, I said it, Illinois.
Yeah, there we go.
Illinois violation.
Yeah.
What do you think about our move to essentially ban in-state retailers from selling hemp? I want to stress again, online sales, according to the lead sponsor of this bill, would still be allowed.
It looks like it's the market is moving to the internet. You know what I mean? These legislators just don't have any sense of like what it's really like to actually do enforcement, and all they're trying to do is people that are trying to prop up storefronts, they're paying more money for rent than people are paying to just have an online store, because there's no major real cost with that as far as like your rent, or you know what I'm saying, having employees there. Yeah, of course you have people monitoring your website and doing fulfillment and things like that, but as far as the overhead costs are not even close to comparable with having a storefront and whatnot. So this is just hampering the economy. Governor Pritzker just sounds a little mad that people are undermining his aggressive tax structure over there, of how they're fleecing the citizens of Illinois. And as far as Poseidon Investments goes, maybe they should have more hemp companies in their portfolios instead of trying to act as protectors for the protectionist marketplaces.
I think the tide is slowly turning. You see people like Boris Jordan on the Dills Report. Shout out. That's a pretty good show. Mm-hmm. And he's basically saying a lot of the things we've been saying on the Cole memo for the last year. And I'm not taking credit for these ideas, because we heard those ideas from other places as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that the tide is turning. Here's one other question I wanted to put out there for the panel, because this is how the discussion has gone. In Illinois, when law enforcement comes across these like hemp shops or smoke shops, selling hemp, they've not been able to do anything. Our Cannabis Regulation Oversight Officer has even said that, they're not able to act because this is federally legal. So they're trying to see what they can do to give law enforcement the ability to act. Mm-hmm. Here's my thing. The first few words from the bill that legalized cannabis in Illinois are these words: in the interest of allowing law enforcement to focus on violent and property crime, the General Assembly finds and declares that the use of cannabis should be legal. Now, my question is, if they're trying to give law enforcement the ability to focus on anything other than that, which is what they're proposing, this bill would add $10,000 daily fines for unlicensed activity, in addition to all other criminal penalties that exist. They're basically giving law enforcement the capacity to focus on nonviolent cannabis crime. And my question to the panel, and I'll stop throwing out questions and just let you discuss, is do you think that violates the spirit of the law?
I mean, it definitely violates the spirit of the intent of those words that you just stated right there, Cole. That's for sure. That's for sure, without a doubt.
And Google that, people. Google it.
I think you're exactly right, Cole. And I would even further develop that question, because it seems to me that if this is an FDA farm bill thing for any state to outlaw it, doesn't that contradict the interstate commerce clause?
Yep. It sounds like a lawsuit to me.
Isn't it illegal for a state to make a commodity that the FDA has declared illegal? There's a contradiction here somewhere, and I'm really surprised that we haven't seen a story where someone has decided to sue a state yet.
Well, I think you could have a class action lawsuit against a number of states all at the same thing and force this to go to the Supreme Court, Jesse, because
I think so too.
Because all the states that have gone. I wish we had one of our great lawyers on with us today to go at this. But Dr. T, since we have a doctor on, what do you have any thoughts in regards to this? Like, we know that we understand that these products need to be regulated for safety standards and whatnot, and a lot of them may or may not be or whatnot. So we all know that part, but at the same time, they're prohibiting access to the plant from people that need it, and a lot of these people that do purchase at these stores don't have the income requirements to be able to pay all these erroneous taxes that these political elites want to enact on their subjects.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, whenever I see the word hemp, I cringe, because it's just such a poor definition of the word that we're using. This, pick one of many active ingredients in the plant and classify it with one ingredient. It leads to lots of problems where type 1 cannabis and type 3 cannabis can be considered hemp, and so I can't get beyond that. These guys are taking the product and altering it to try to sell to people. But there are a lot of great actors in the quote unquote hemp industry who don't do that, who just really pull out the cannabinoids from there and sell it to people who very much need it. And so, let's just get our definitions right is really what I'd like to start with.
Yeah, Dr. T, my understanding is that there's 3 legal definitions in the law, especially in federal law. You have the cannabis, which is the overall every plant, and then you have hemp and marijuana, right, which is why we still use that word marijuana. And it seems to me that the medical definitions that you and other doctors use don't line up with the legal definitions in any way. So when we read these stories and we see all this activity, whether it's in the medical community or in the federal government, they say the same words, but they mean radically different things. And so no wonder everybody's confused. Even experts in the industry are confused, deeply confused about the meanings of these words.
Yeah, they should look over to the scientists. What are the scientists calling it? We're not using.
And that's just
it. Yeah.
They're using words that are based, so we've got the botanical scientific definitions, and then we've got these legal definitions. And as you say, they don't comport. It's a reality.
Right.
I'm interested in your thoughts, though, on the other part, because what's interesting about how this started in Illinois was first it was like, oh, it's Delta 8, it's these synthetics cut with, who knows, and then it was the kids, right? So it was this public safety pitch. And then a lot of the hemp operators came up with 2 separate proposals, one which I think is better than the other. And if we want to get into that, we can.
That's usually what happens when there's 2 proposals, Cole.
Right. Yeah. Generally speaking, right? When you got 2 choices. But the answer universally, even though there has been 2 proposals, has been, okay, you're worried about what's in it, make us test it. Okay, you're worried about how much is in it, make us label it accurately. And if we don't label it accurately and we can't pass tests, then tell us we can't. And I guess my whole thought with the synthetic talking point is not that it's not a real issue, but I also wonder, like, because it's such a large talking point, like, who are these people that are being duped into buying like Delta 8? You know what I mean? Like, as far as everybody on this call, and I don't mean to paint with a broad brush, but I feel like if I go into a store, and I have sometimes, and I've seen these products, I'm like, I ain't buying that. Delta 10 XYZ, like, I just don't buy it. I feel like it's a problem that solves itself, and when you see THC and THCA and you know what that is, and you maybe see it's sold by cookies, so you feel a little bit better about that purchase. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the synthetic thing, while it's a real issue, it's easily solved, but it's often used as a red herring. I know I kind of went all over the place on that, but.
Yeah, Newsom did this. Yeah, he's really pointed toward that. And it's like, well, a lot of hemp operators are just not doing that. They're testing their products, making sure it's clean, and getting it out to patrons who appreciate it.
Yep, it's like Parody Gummy. You can head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you guys have COAs we can look at.
Yep, COAs are available on our website. You can check them out. Yep, for each of the 3 flavors that we are offering, Dr. T. 100%. Please check them out.
So you're gonna get mad at me.
What, Jenny?
I hate when people post I need these to be batch specific COAs. So like COAs maybe should go out with the product.
They are batch specific COAs, Jenny Beth.
Amazing. Because hemp companies, I'm glad that yours are, but hemp companies traditionally have thrown a COA up on the website. They're like, the COAs are on the website. Yeah, okay, for what you made in 2019. Show me what I just ate yesterday.
Yeah, no. We operate on a different standard, but something interesting in the YouTube chat. Brandon Lindsay says they just need to stop playing with words. Keep it simple, stupid, as a phrase that should be applied in this case. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really know how lawyers work.
Well, I want to give a plug for Parody Gummies because I ate one on January 5th and I woke up on January 6th in the rotunda next to a guy taking a shit in the rotunda. That was after a raspberry riot.
That's cute.
Whoa.
That's cute. Shout out to the raspberry riots and all the.
Looks like the other panelists don't get my joke.
I get it.
On January 6th.
I get it. I get your joke. Everyone gets the joke, Cole.
We get it.
Yeah. Here you go, Cole. Here you go. There we go. All right. You get some vindication right there, Cole.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to roll into this. Was a great discussion about hemp, and shout out to all the hemp players out there and everyone watching our show that's involved in the hemp industry and involved in the cannabis industry, regulated cannabis industry as well. We're going to roll into this last question, and we're all big supporters of free speech here at High at 9 News. I don't think that we have any correspondents that are on any days of the show that are against free speech in that way. And this story has to do with free speech, and since we couldn't have Dr. Mark with us today, this story, it comes out of Vermont. So since Dr. Mark isn't here from Vermont today, this story is from Vermont. And this one is for you, Vermont Alternative. If you're still up there, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. Because a Middlebury cannabis business sues a Vermont regulator over, that's right, free speech, you guys. In a quote, they say, "If I want to put signage in my store, 20% off a product, I need to get it pre-approved by the CCB, and that is the Cannabis Control Board," said Dave Silverman, co-founder of Flora, who is the plaintiff in this lawsuit, you guys. A Middlebury-based cannabis retailer filed a civil suit against the Vermont Cannabis Control Board this week, arguing that the state's restrictions on advertising infringe on constitutionally protected free speech rights. In the suit filed on Monday in Addison County Superior Court, the retailer Flora Cannabis particularly targeted a Vermont law that requires licensed cannabis businesses to submit all public statements intended to induce a sale for pre-approval by the control board. Even a sign placed only in a business's own store, you guys. In a quote, "If I want to put signage in my store, 20% off a product, I need to get it pre-approved by the CCB, the Cannabis Control Board," said Flora co-founder Dave Silverman in the interview. Backers of the law argue that the requirements exist to protect minors. And in a quote, "But people can't enter unless they have their ID verified," Silverman said. "I'm okay with no cartoon characters when I advertise, but with this level of stigma, it's illegal to restrict our free speech in this way," he added. Cannabis Control Board Chair James Pepper, who's named in the suit along with the board executive director Olga Fitch, said he was not surprised by the lawsuit, and in a quote says, "It has been a bone of contention at the legislature since back in 2020, Pepper said. Every year, the cannabis industry has come to the legislature arguing that these laws are too restrictive. He added that the Cannabis Control Board is only enforcing the laws as they're written. In a quote, cannabis advertising is any communication that is calculated to induce a sale. So someone saying that they're selling with 20% off, whether that's online or in store, is made to introduce a sale, Pepper said. It is legal to put a sign with a sale in your shop, he said, and you just have to have it approved first. Since November of 2022, the board has reviewed 585 advertisement submissions, approving 324 and denying 169, and marking 25 submissions that didn't count as advertisements, according to data provided by the control board. Most denials were approved upon resubmission after revisions, and Silverman claimed that licensed cannabis businesses in Vermont operate under stricter advertising regulations than any other industry in the state, including sports wagering, and that no other state where adult cannabis use is legalized has such strict rules. Pepper, however, questioned whether Vermont's the only state with a pre-approval requirement. In a quote says, I went to a cannabis regulatory meeting and pre-approval was discussed, and I remember a number of people raised their hands, but I can't say definitively that we as Vermont are not the only ones, Pepper said. To Silverman, the turnaround time is also an issue. When he submits an advertising statement for pre-approval, he said the control board takes a week to respond, if they respond at all, he said. And the control board reviews submissions internally, beginning with a designated staff member who assesses their content. Advertisements without any direct problems, such as therapeutic claims, are typically processed within 1 to 2 days, according to Pepper, and submissions with ambiguous content are forwarded to a committee that meets weekly. Pepper estimates the review process generally takes no more than 8 days, with occasional exceptions. And in a quote, they say, we give feedback and they have the option to adjust the statement. It's a conversation. Within a day, it can be approved, Pepper said, and the lawsuit is supported by a broad coalition of manufacturers, distributors, and retailers across the state, according to a press release on Wednesday from Flora. Well, look at this, man. The state of Vermont is trying to attack free speech, and I agree with this operator. I'm paying rent on a space. The state of Vermont is not going to tell me what the hell type of signs I want to put into my establishment. That's just total freaking BS if I'm paying rent there. If that's the case, the state of Vermont better start subsidizing my rent that I'm paying to operate my store. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this.
Man. This is just terrible,
right?
This rolls across every state. I got re-involved in the cannabis industry in around 2011 when Montana was giving its huge fight to overturn the illegal overturn of our passage of a medical law in 2004. So we had medical for 7 years, and then the legislature just overturned it out of nowhere. And when I got involved, it was because I was a business and a branding and marketing professional. I was running a small agency, and I had a lot of cannabis clients. And so I got involved in that fight and have seen over the last 15 years almost that this is common in every single state. This type of restriction around what you can and can't say to your customers. Obviously, you can't make any FDA claims this is going to cure this or that. We understand that, but to restrict it on this level is just crazy. It's purposeful restriction of business. It feels a little bit like Operation Choke Point.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this, but you can't have a bank account, and you can't talk about it, and you can't talk on social media either. We're going to censor you there too. So it's like they put you in a little box where you can't move or make money and squeeze you out. And I'm really tired of it, and I hope that the cannabis industry stands up in unity against this type of crap.
You know what I think? I think this guy from Vermont needs to get with the guy from Mississippi and maybe file a class action lawsuit against both states for freedom of speech and kind of attack this thing together. Because I agree. And how the state is trying to justify this wait time of like, oh yeah, typically it takes a day or two. Like what, there's a lot of things that happen within a day, and there's a lot of things that you have to do as a cannabis business operator in a tightly regulated marketplace. Sometimes all of a sudden you just like, oh, you know what, let's throw this on sale, and it's kind of an immediate thing. And they should have the right to do it. They're the ones that paid for the inventory in the first place, and how the state is, this is just total bullshit in my mind.
I hope they just do it.
Yeah, I think they should just do it too, like Nike.
Yeah, just do it. Mm-hmm. Just do it. Just put the signs up. Part of being in this industry, whether you're ancillary or directly plant touching, is that you can have your bank account shut down at any time. Mm-hmm. The feds in many ways could show up and take you to jail in many ways if they want to. And that's the risk we have to take, and we have to understand that risk when we're in this industry. And understanding that risk means that we stand up and we say the things that need to be said, and we be willing to go to jail. Put the signs up, be willing to go to jail, and make yourself a martyr and get this story bigger than just your little local community.
Yep, totally agree. Any thoughts on this? Thoughts on this, Cole? On this, this attack on free speech?
It's just insane. And, the double standard is, we deal with it all the time in cannabis, but, backers of the law arguing that the requirements exist to protect minors.
They can't even enter the store.
Yeah. And what did those men and women that go down into those mines every day do to deserve this sort of, stupid joke.
Yes.
But no, seriously, first of all, again, what I meant by bringing up a double standard, yes, they can't even enter the store. But also, I see the Sour Patch alcohol drinks now and the Sunny D vodka. I'm not saying that it's that just because alcohol does it, that every product should be able to make imagery that, kind of is towards minors. But again, you want to talk about a double standard, like those products exist and nobody's crying about it. And you can guarantee that if we rolled out a Sunny D, cannabis infused Sunny D, there would be headlines all over the place saying, these pot.
We'd have to do it in Florida.
Kids high.
We'd have to do it in Florida, Cole.
That's right.
Yeah. Sunny D in Florida. Yes. Oh, man. I just hate that these, how they trying to justify with the time. Oh, it could take no longer than 8 days. Like, that is a long time in cannabis world, and that product is a plant, and it's depreciating in value already over that 8 days they're waiting. This is stupid.
I was about to say, I don't mean to paint with a broad brush, but most of the time when you're marking a product down, it's because you need to get rid of it. And, yeah, it's just adding more burden to already burdened operators.
I'm with you guys. Well, thank you, Cole of the Cole Memo, the ultimate troll out there in Illinois. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Cole Preston joining us today. And Cole, if I remember correctly, we have you on the calendar to be joining us as a guest correspondent on Monday as well, too. Is that correct?
Yeah. All right. Bringing the noise.
All right, sweet. Illinois. Yes, that's right. Look at that, Mr. Cole Memo from Illinois, Chillinois, and the Cole Memo. Make sure you check him out on YouTube, you guys. And Mr. Jesse Barney, thank you all so much. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the developing insanity of the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for always helping us keep the lights on over here, and Weed for the People, you guys. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Adam out there in the metaverse somewhere. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Adam, play the Christmas music.
1, 2, 3, 4.